Board of Directors. My name is Josh.
My name's Wes.
My name's David.
My name's Candace.
And I'm Colleen.
I'm going to start by talking to you guys about a few recent events. The first event, located in the Gulf of Mexico, is known to many as the BP oil spill. Here, over 120 million gallons of oil was released into the Gulf, claiming the lives of 11 people, causing extensive damages to the environment, and ended up costing BP over $4.5 billion in other costs and fines. The second event, located in Nigeria, is known as the Nigeria oil spill. Here, over 40,000 barrels of oil was released because of a leak in an oil pipeline. The UN stated that it would take the region over 30 years to recover from these damages, and it ended up costing Shell Oil and Gas over $1 billion. The last event I'm going to talk about is located in Little Buffalo, Alberta, Canada. Here, over 28,000 barrels of oil was released, again due to a rupture in an oil pipeline. It ended up taking 122 days for this pipeline to get started again, and ended up costing the owner hundreds of millions of dollars. These are just 3 examples of the many oil crises that occur on a daily basis. Consistent with these events shows how damages could have been minimized and or not even occurred if these problems would have been detected earlier. With increasing government regulations and stipulations within the oil industry, oil companies are going to have to find new ways to improve their current system and way of doing things. This is why we recommend to you that you target environmental monitoring within the oil industry, specifically monitoring water, soil, and air. This is an $11 billion Canadian market and a $400 billion market worldwide. This creates a huge opportunity for Blue Rover in the future, and this is something that you should not let slip away.
So although the company operated at a net loss last year in 2012, there are strong financial projections for the transportation industry in 2013. What this means for our recommendation is that you'll be able to finance the project by moving into environmental monitoring. And although this industry does seem to be profitable, the transportation industry is very slow moving and it will be slow growth. This is because consumers don't realize the need they have for Blue Rover because of the lack of regulation imposed by the government. However, the oil industry is highly regulated by the government, which will make this strategy much more faster growth strategy, leading to higher profits in the long run.
So the transportation industry currently is very high risk and highly competitive. The 2 biggest competitors are Reefer Sales and Thermo King. We actually spoke to a gentleman in northern Canada who transports $300,000 worth of product in a full truckload, and he already has reputable and reliable control systems in place. So he feels that the switch to Blue Rover wouldn't be necessary or something they'd be interested in. We know that Blue Rover has such a wide variety of capabilities, so we think that restricting it strictly to temperature control would just be reducing its potential growth in the future. However, the environmental cleanup and remediation in the oil industry is something that provides 2 huge benefits Blue Rover would provide to these oil companies. First, it would reduce labor costs, and secondly, it would meet all the government regulations that are currently in place. We know from an executive at one of the top oil companies in Canada that there are individuals who go out in little rubber dinghies and measure water, air, and soil on a daily, weekly, and bi-weekly basis. This could be something that Blue Rover could do at a constant level, monitor any changes, notify the certain people so that they could come in and take a look at what's going on, and could potentially save them billions of dollars, because we do know that the environmental remediation industry is $11 billion, so that we know that in Canada alone. So that's a huge potential growth for Canada. We looked at 3 alternatives. We looked at only the transportation industry, we looked at the pharmaceutical industry, and we looked at the environmental monitoring industry within the oil companies. We knew that we wanted to specialize Blue Rover because we feel that AATSI's efforts are being too thinly spread, so that not enough focus is being to maximize your future potential profits. We also wanted to maximize sustainable financial growth. So we believe that by targeting these top 5 oil companies and only getting 0.2% in the first year of one of these oil companies' monitoring sites, that's a huge growth within the top 5, Canada, and then potentially the world. We also wanted to minimize your risk, which is why we aren't putting all of your eggs in one basket and completely abandoning the transportation industry.
So as Blue Rover is heading into a new industry, it's going to be important for them to reposition their product as an environmental monitoring device. This is going to be an effective strategy because the environmental segment is highly regulated by the government, is a growing social trend throughout North America. It's also going to be applicable across a wide range of industries, leaving room for future expansion to multiple new markets for Blue Rover. Blue Rover is going to need to target the big 5 oil companies currently in Canada, which are Suncor Energy, Husky Energy, Canada Natural Resources, Imperial Oil, and Cenovus Energy. In targeting the big 5 oil companies, This will give Blue Rover the greatest opportunity for initial growth within this industry. Blue Rover will need to establish the key personnel within each of the big 5 oil companies for their sales force to be communicating with. Initially, we should be looking towards executives in environmental divisions, operational divisions, and any executives that are currently working in the oil sands operations in Alberta. We feel that these people will have the greatest knowledge of how to properly apply the Blue Rover product into their current monitoring sites. Later on in the buying process, Blue Rover will need to go towards CEOs and CFOs, as this will be such a huge purchase for them. So we need people that are going to be able to make the final decision to communicate with later on. When we do send the Blue Rover sales force towards these companies, it's going to be important for them to communicate the key value Blue Rover will be bringing towards their company. So first and foremost will be the cost-cutting ability of Blue Rover. As Blue Rover will be able to eliminate a lot of the current labor costs associated with our current techniques in monitoring air, water, and soil. Second is it's going to provide a valuable asset for future exploration projects, and as it will be able to evaluate any future sites. The third reason is going to be because it serves as an all-in-one product, as it's able to monitor multiple sensory inputs. So this is going to be a valuable product for oil companies to utilize.
Alright, so the initial phase in our implementation plan is hiring. Hiring is going to allow the company to expand its capacity and thus meet the increasing demands of this expansion project. Hiring will have a sales focus. Sales will be dependent on greatly to generate revenue of which the business will operate on. There will be a total of 6 sales representatives hired. 5 of them will be allocated to each of the individual oil companies we choose to target, with an additional assigned to Suncor Energy. The reason being is that they have a 20% market share and are 50% larger in relativity to any of the other oil companies we propose to target. There will be a total of 13 hirings. 8 will be in the oil industry, 5 in the transportation industry. Additional hirings will take place in HR, hirings of lobbyists, and hirings in logistics. With this increase in employees now hired into the company, there will be the need to expand to Guelph, to headquarters of the engineering department. Waterloo will be the headquarters for the business and strategic planning department. Another change that we recommend is to shift into a divisional structure, having divisions focus on the particular industries that Blue Rover will be targeted to. This will help to employ flexibility in the way the company adapts to changes in the external environment. In addition, it will decentralize decision-making, reduce the chain of command, and it will increase the efficiency of the communication process throughout the company.
So looking to the future, we feel that Blue Rover will need to gain an initial client in one of the big 5 oil companies. This is because we feel that if we're able to sell the Blue Rover product to one of the big 5 oil companies, it will serve as a trickle-down effect, and the other big 5 oil companies will follow suit. And also, once we fully establish ourselves within North America, we're going to need to look internationally to other countries that have highly regulated, that are highly regulated by the government. And as we feel that Blue Rover serves such a great use for any environmental cleanup applications, we're also going to be looking to multiple new markets through that way.
So in order to effectively forecast the demand for this environmental monitoring industry, we have to look at how many of these testing sites there are in Canada. So for every 12 square miles, there's approximately 400 of these testing sites, and there's 18,500 square miles to be accounted for within the oil industry, leading to a total of 8.8 million testing sites in Canada alone that are monitored by these oil companies. So that's a great opportunity for growth for Blue Rover. Assuming that you were able to attain a partnership with Suncor in the first year, they have a 21.7% market share in the industry, meaning that they have approximately 1.9 million of these testing sites under their umbrella of responsibility. Assuming that you'd only capture 0.2% of the market in the first year between quarters 3 and quarters 4, you'd sell approximately 1,400 of these units to them in the first year. Looking into the long term, net income was calculated on a best case and worst case scenario. So in the worst case, we assumed a growth rate of 10% over 5 years from 2013 to 2017. And in this case, you'd expect to earn approximately $7.6 million in 2017. In the best case scenario, the growth rate would double each year, leading to a net income of $76 million earned in 2017. So it proves to be very profitable for the company and more so than the transportation industry. By valuing the project, your company would be able to increase its value from 42 to 88%, with the best case scenario being valued at $98.2 million, and the worst case would still have a high value of $16.6 million for the project. So it proves to be very sustainable and profitable for you in the future.
We want to thank you, Board of Directors, for listening to our presentation. We hope you take into consideration our recommendation which we have provided you today. We want to leave you with one last thought. By directing your efforts towards environmental monitoring within the oil industry, you're not only going to be helping save people's lives, the environment, but you also make a ton of money.
I got one question kind of start. What are you sampling? Like, what do they look for? Looking for like petrochemicals in the soil, or are they looking for like what is it exactly? Like chemical monitoring, I'm assuming, or are you just?
We do know like that they sample like carbon dioxide, methane. They look at basically every chemical element in air, soil, and water. There was like a huge list, like hundreds and hundreds of things. We did talk about a couple, but it could also monitor pressure changes in pipelines. So like we didn't specifically talk about anything because there was just so many.
Right. So right now you were saying that they go out daily, weekly, monthly, bi-monthly, all that kind of stuff. So it's an actual person going out, taking water sample, soil sample, something
Yeah.
like that. Does it need to be done? Like, is there a benefit to doing it more frequently, or is that it only needs to be done once a month?
Yeah, so the benefit of it being done more frequently was preventing these oil spills from happening. So as Josh mentioned in the beginning, they had such extreme value. So by seeing the difference in chemicals right away, rather than just on a bi-weekly basis, you'd be able to prevent these sooner.
Prevent the spill or detect the spill?
Detect it sooner to ultimately lower the cost that it.
Okay.
Could you elaborate on the divisional management, your
Okay, so
recommendation?
what we meant by this is that the business will be separated into specific divisions into the future that will handle the specific industries that Blue River might be targeting. This could be pharmaceutical, this could be the oil industry, transportation.
In what respect though? Are you talking about departments? Like duplicating
Well,
departments?
it's a divisional structure, so rather than organize the company into functions like marketing,
Right.
it's not geared towards the specific industry. So in marketing, they'd be handling the marketing to all of the different industries. But when you separate it into divisions that handle each of the industries, it's more specialized for that industry.
Wouldn't that require duplication of staff or
Yes, it
significant
would, but
volumes
what
of
we
staff?
accounted for was just for transportation and all.
I believe you suggested that the one office in Guelph and one office in Waterloo, one for more engineering development, one for planning. Why did you separate those two offices?
Because in the cases you supplied to us, there was already constraints on the office in Waterloo. There was no more room for employees. So since we were hiring an additional 13 employees, there'd be the need to expand offices.
Do you think there's any negative downfall from having your company split into two different locations?
Yes. We thought by moving into engineering, or into, well, sorry, the engineering would be focused in a good hotspot for engineering, as it was stated in the case. Another alternative we looked at was to expand the company as a whole to Toronto, and this would keep all the staff together rather than splitting them up. This is more expensive, much more expensive.
Relocation fees.
Going back to the beginning, you had made some statements on encroachments upon the transportation industry. You talked to an individual, sort of somebody about reefer sales.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why we did get into that was for legislation, and legislation is very specific about how things are to be monitored and the time interval and such. We are well aware of reefer sales and Thermo King and Carrier and had spoken to them. Their products work very differently than ours. In other words, what they do is they measure things like cold air return. We measure product temperature, and legislation is very specific, so that individual that you spoke to needs to do a little more homework in terms of the market. So, but you make a very well point. It's a very competitive market where this may be greenfield for us, and price points may not be so sensitive. But that's just for your own background.
And did you pick the environmental industry because it's obviously a newer area to go because of the capabilities of the rover? Or did you just pick it because it's a good industry to be in? Like, did you say to the new rover capabilities and how it operates is that's where it should go? Or did you just say that's a good industry and it can be used there?
I think we just I think we just felt that the Blue Rover was the ideal fit for the environmental industry just because it's going to be able to monitor so many different aspects within it. So when the environmental industry is so big, right? So even if it's just focusing on a water company or something, Blue Rover would fit perfectly for that, able to monitor all these chemicals, and we just felt like it was the ideal fit.
Do you think that there could be a political play here as well? With, if we're able to detect things early, prevent, would be something that the federal government might be interested in, or say the Aboriginal community. There's always a protest against protecting the environment.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the government would probably want to back you up on this, which would ultimately increase the share that you would be able to get from these companies.
Okay, so my name is Lisa Keeping and I'm the Director of Undergraduate Business Programs. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to go through, for all of the students, they're used to it by now, I'm going to go through a few announcements first while I have your attention, and we will have an opportunity to hear a little bit from the company, and then we will get to the winner. So the first thing I guess I just want to say is that, this is probably, I think, the best time of year for all of us who are teaching, because we really get to see the best of you. And I have to say, with the 4 finalists we saw today, you do the program so proud, and I think all of us here agree that each of you are worthy of winning, even though ultimately there is one winner. So I think if we could all just give one final round of applause. Just a few thank yous before we get to the team. Thanks once again to our great case writers, David and Joel. Thanks to all the staff and faculty for their involvement in this. It takes a lot to run this competition, and we wouldn't be able to do it with all of them. Without all of them. Thanks to the board members, some of whom were faculty, but also some of whom were alumni, and so now you guys can all come back and help us judge ICE as well. So thanks to them. And thanks to our many sponsors whom we have thanked over and over, so I won't give you a detailed list like I have done all week. We all know who they are, but we do really appreciate them sponsoring this activity. And of course, we need to thank the external board, not just for being here today, but for sharing your company with us, for the time it takes to provide this information. And we know that your time is extremely valuable, so even for being here today and providing the questions you have and going through this exercise, we really do appreciate this, and we would not be able to continue this exercise for the 30-some years we've been doing if it wasn't for organizations like you. So thanks so much. So at this point, I think I want to hand it over to the external board, and my understanding is there were a few things you wanted to say.
The first thing we want to do from Blue Rover is thank all of you, everyone in this room, faculty, all of the students here that are here, and all the other ones that aren't here that took an interest in our company and decided to spend the time to look at it and give a case. And it's just a wonderful thing for us to watch. We will guarantee that we will read every single one of them. Loretto has already gone through a lot of them. We're all going to read them, and we'll take all of that information and all of your advice very, very seriously. So thank you for that. So, the criteria by which we chose was about what we could do today. What was the best opportunity for us of the 4 finalists of what we could do today and also build a platform in the future. And around the table, there was four different winners, and we all had a different choice. And we argued, like we always do, and we discussed, and we did come up with one that we believe we can start today, but also build on this. We want to have when Loretto and I started this, we wanted to have a large company, we wanted a scalable company, we wanted to grow exponentially, so everything we do to that end. But there's also the restriction of what we can do today, how much money we have, how many people we have, how much resources we have. So, we did choose one that we believe we can implement tomorrow. We'll have some folks start to work on it very soon, but we also believe it can build into a big platform. And the winner is?
Of course, there's going to be